had him under control until he sabotaged me and made fools of us.
Well, it was foolish of him to make an enemy out of someone who knows all his secrets.
So she's never been one.
A really big one. About you.
Oh.
I can tell you, but
what?
it's gonna make you real.
What a bully.
You're gonna have to wait till episode 4.
I have a theory!
Whoa, welcome back to the break room. Loki, episode 3, finally gives us Victor Timely and a big tease from Miss Minutes at the end. What is her secret? We'll get into it. This is Inside Marvel, New Rockstars Weekly Marvel Reaction Show. I'm Erik Voss. Here with me is Maude Garrett.
Oh, big hello.
And Tommy Bechtold.
And how you doing?
Guys, this episode, oh my God.
We're back.
We are back. We're back. I know, I was probably a bit too hard on Loki episode 2, but this
It
episode...
didn't have its footing, but it's now really secure, I find. They were stumbling through.
I had so much trouble with Loki episode 2, I was at home hurling my guts out over it. So that was my reaction. No, here is my issue with Loki episode 2. I thought that the good people at Disney sent the wrong episode in because I did not feel that it was made sense where it started. I was like, wait, am I watching the wrong episode? Because I had a kerfuffle week 1 where I accidentally started season 1 episode 6, and I was like, wait, are they just replaying the beginning of the last episode? And I watched it for like 5 whole minutes before I realized it was just that episode.
It's always good to have a, end of season 1 refresher.
I
think so.
Yeah, I have to do it.
But you know what? This episode, it's interesting how we're paralleling season 1, right? We had, in season 1, we had the Lamentous episode. Yes. The season 3 of this episode, or of this season, is going to 19th century Chicago.
Yes.
We learned a lot about Chicago history this episode, and we're going to talk about what exactly Miss Minutes' secret is for Renslayer, and what Victor Timely's relationship is with He Who Remains, because we're on a branch timeline here. Before we get to that, be sure to check out nerdriot.shop, where you can always grab the latest and greatest in New Rockstars gear. I'm wearing a Mobius shirt. We got a whole lineup of merch inspired by Loki. We got our break room specific Gaius shirt that I was wearing in our episode 1 breakdown and reaction. Please support this channel. Check out our great merch options over at nerdriot.shop, and please don't forget to subscribe to all 3 New Rockstars channels in our network. We got New Rockstars The Deep Dive in here on the break room.
Woo!
All right, let's start talking about what happened this episode.
Could we? Because I've got a theory that I'm chomping at the bit to get to. I'm going to blow your mind not once but twice. So let's get stuck into that recap. After a fun ragtime version of the Marvel Studios theme, wasn't that a lot of fun?
So great.
It put
Scott Joplin was playing it somewhere.
Put you straight in a mood, which I loved. Ravona Renslayer steps out from a time door and into Chicago in 1868 on the sacred timeline with Ms. Minutes, who I don't trust a single bit. Can I just say?
Yeah.
She feels so wrong in all the right ways, doesn't she?
We got to put a little
bless
tab
your
on
heart, and people from the Midwest know what bless your heart means.
Screw your soul. She takes on an old-timey, wimey black and white form, and they follow the plan set by He Who Remains in the event of his death to drop a copy of the TVA Guidebook off to a child through a window. What? Does Renslayer even know what she's doing? I don't think so at all.
Lesson learned here, kids. If you're an avid reader, a malicious, world-dominating, demigod will eventually leave a package at your door.
Read the tutorial. Read the guidebook. Read the log.
The book comes in through your window. It's a sports almanac that will put you on a great life path, so just read it.
Read more books. Following Renslayer's temp pad signals, Loki and Mobius also journey to Chicago, looking dapper in their 3-piece suit. Dox's plan to prune the branches have had the side effect of giving them more time, but they need to find Ms. Minutes to override the blast door system. They arrive in 1893 at the World's Fair, and it is important to note that 1893 is a branched timeline. So this isn't the sacred timeline anymore, this is an offshoot.
Yeah, which is interesting. So, we don't have to worry about, oh, wait, did Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla have, some other competitor? No, we're in a branch timeline, but man, does Victor Timely hate Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
He hates his guts.
I think as soon as you hear branch timeline, especially after season 1, episode 6 that you watched 5 minutes of, I immediately think Kang variant. We're going to start.
We're in a
variant.
variant. Yeah, we're seeing a variant.
Like all the time. Variant City.
Well, those two rapscallions find their way to Victor Timely's astounding temporal marvels. Marvel just can't help themselves, can they? They got to just put that name in, Marvels. And spot Renslayer, who has done the same. We finally get the scene teased to us in the ending credits of Quantumania, the post-credit scene with Victor Timely stepping on stage in his loom-like device. Timely is seemingly different from He Who Remains. He's nervous, eccentric. He talks about the power of time. The power of time.
Can we talk about his performance as this eccentric Victor Timely?
Very specific, like every choice, he makes, like, think what you will about Jonathan Majors. The guy has studied the craft of acting and makes a lot of nuanced choices.
I disagree. Choices, yes, he is making it, but it is taking me so far out of this show.
Okay.
I feel like he's in a different show than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way to demonstrate differences between characters, but it's a subtle thing, and he's going so over the top with it that it feels like someone trying to act. So I wonder if this is all like put on for show, and that we're going to see the real version of him, mayhaps. But I'm actually excited to see more different variants to see the difference. I want to know if this is a choice or if this is a character thing.
It seems to me that...
Gotta gripe.
I understand. I don't disagree with you. I think it seems to me, though, like the thought process that I gleaned from it was that this character choice allows Jonathan Majors to parlay a sense of innocence in this Kang variant, or a sense of actual fear. I thought it was interesting when he was doing his performance piece for the people at the fair. He didn't stutter. He just took long pauses, which I think, without at the risk of not being. I mean, I had friends who stuttered in middle school and in high school. And I think that was a tool that they used, was just like to take the time to get the word, which it's ultimately I'm stammering now, trying not to say something that is offensive without inadvertently, but like I didn't have a stutter, so I don't really know the life experience of it.
Yeah, but if we watch the King's speech, like that is something that like Mr. Logue, right? That was Jeffrey Rush's character. He said like take your time. I feel like I'm an expert on speech elocution now just from watching the King's speech.
Yes,
I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I think you're onto something, Tommy. I think the pauses might have been a choice. But yeah, I think the way you're reacting is valid, though, Maude. I think a lot of people had a similar reaction to the Quantumania mid-credits scene, where we had Pharaoh Ramatut, we had Scarlet Centurion, we had Immortus, and a lot of people felt that was over the top too. But I think Kang is a really weird character to play, and you have to be over the top just to make them distinct from each other.
Yeah, because Thanos is like a guy who owns a body shop. Like he's just kind of like, I'm coming in to destroy half of the world or half of the universe because that's balance. Like he's very direct. Like your car needs a new intake valve and a serpentine belt. Okay, it's going to cost half of the known universe. Kang has to be like the greatest showman. In fact, Hugh Jackman should play Kang as a variant. Now let's get back on track. He talks about the power of time and how it can be harnessed as energy, and how his machine, aka the temporal loom, can invert the temporal decay of electricity flowing through it, lowering its entropy and gathering it into the fine threads of power.
Oh, you said that so well.
It was good.
That was
Solid
such a good power. I was hoping you would stick the
Max power.
landing, and you really did.
A chaos of particles is transformed into order, his goal, to power the entire planet. He sways the doubtful crowd by switching on the loom. Its power on full display as rays of electricity shoot across the space. We get a chase as Mobius, Loki, Renslayer, and a slighted robber baron who cardiovascularly just really couldn't keep up with everyone, pursues Timely through the fair.
And this was really fun, just to see people run through a space and then have fun music playing. I was really digging the vibes this episode, but we follow up with Sylvie joining the chase, cornering Timely and Loki in a Ferris wheel cart. And I love that if you're at 1893 World's Fair, we have a scene taking place on the world's first Ferris wheel. They're arguing, Loki insisting they need Timely to save the TVA, thus preventing a war and the future timeline collapse. But Sylvie makes a good point that stopping the TVA from being destroyed and fixing it are two different things. She doesn't want to kill Timely, but he could become He Who Remains. And this culminates in an explosion of their powers, and in the chaos, our cast is scattered, getting away from Loki and Mobius. Renslayer explains the plight of the TVA to Timely, who feels like his destiny is finally being realized. which is interesting. He's been flipping through this book his whole life. He doesn't really know what his path is, and finally it's like the angel who gave it to him is back.
But yeah, and don't all of us great intellectuals dream of a day where someone from the past or future comes to us and goes, "You are the key to all of this."
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, when rather than hanging out with friends in high school, you just watch back episodes of Simpsons. There's a reason why you're doing it.
Exactly.
Come work on YouTube.
It's fine that you wrote little comic books on pieces of blank paper from your parents' printer and then published them to only your family members, and then your dad would give you like a condescending 50 cents and be like, "I'm your first customer." You can't be my only customer, Dad. You can't be my only customer.
And how does that make you feel, Tommy?
Power.
Love. As it should. So Victor Timely brings up a good point here. Why aren't Renslayer and Loki working together if they both want to restore order to the TVA? But with the robber baron at the door, the trio need to leave, but not before Timely insists on grabbing a prototype from his lab across the lake in Wisconsin, where taxes are lower.
That's right.
So much fun. So we get
Somebody's gone on, inkfile.com and realized you can incorporate in Montana way less than you can in California.
I will say, as an Australian, that whole part went over my head. I didn't know that.
Why do different
They don't have taxes there. They just have to throw pine cones at koala bears, and if for every koala bear they hit, they have to pay $5. Right?
to the koala, right?
That was our World Fair.
Yes.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
I would go. So sparks fly between Victor Timely and Ravona. Miss Minutes, you can see some jealous side-eyeing
God.
from her. But then Ravona says the wrong word. She says partnership. And then he pulls away from that stupid little origami flower, and he's like, I'm not here to make friends.
Go to sleep.
Yeah. So Ravona gets put in a lifeboat and dropped, and she has to row after them like Ariel in Little Mermaid.
Yes.
With Flounder helping,
Yes.
Did anyone have morbid love triangle between He Who Remains, or Victor, Ravona, and...
Oh, for
Ms.
sure.
Minutes?
There is a love triangle there. You know, the theory I've been
that
saying in
bingo
breakdowns
card?
is that they are two halves of the same bicameral mind. That, like, Victor Timely, or He Remains might have lobotomized Renslayer at some point and separated half of her mind into this holographic shell of Miss Minutes.
Certainly has...
I got another theory.
Ooh,
I can't wait to
I
hear
look forward to this.
At the lab, Timely gathers his things, including his life's work, the throughput multiplier, which he believes could help the loom. But when Timely is ready, Ms. Minutes is not. She wants something else, revealing that He Who Remains gave her more autonomy, allowing this chess-playing AI to have wants. And she wants to be Timely's girl.
She is so
Yeah.
horny in this
Yeah.
episode.
And it's like, it's AI, and she's like this animated little clock, and you're just kind of like, tick, tick, girl.
I
Like,
feel bad saying she hasn't had a soul, or that she's like, she doesn't have a temporal aura, because she's all aura, right?
she's got wants. But before she can throw herself onto him, quite literally, he shuts down the temp pad, and Renslayer reveals herself coming out of the shadows and holding a prototype of his. An early pruning stick.
Yes.
He tries to apologize, but Ravona's in charge. Loki and Mobius then appear in the nick of time, Mobius and Ravona arguing over who's ensuring the safety of the TVA, of the timeline. But then a blast of energy as Sylvie enters the room. She's got a habit of doing that this episode. I could argue that they don't really know what to do with Sylvie's character this
No, it
season.
seems
So far, a
bit,
little
yeah,
soon to
we'll
say,
see. We'll
but
give
you're right. She
we'll
seems
give
a
him a
little
chance.
wandering, but I'm okay with it.
She stands over Timely, who begs her not to kill him, saying,
I'm not the man you think I am.
Sylvie's reaction is just like, you're right, you're different people. I'm arguing that, the branches and the timelines are real people, and we've got to save these people, and who am I to kill this person who's not who we're trying to kill?
Right.
It is enough for Sylvie to very reluctantly let him live. Loki and Mobius take him back to the TVA, leaving Sylvie to face Ravona one more time. I loved their showdown in episode 5, the end of episode 5. Those girls went for it. Anyway, it was cool there was a part 2 of that. Recognizing that Ravona wants power, I said at the end of time, Sylvie kicks her through a time door, sending Ravona to the crumbling citadel at the end of time. He Who Remains' decaying body is still seated in the chair.
I love that.
Which actually undid my theory of he got stabbed and he actually couldn't die.
Oh, no,
So the fact that I saw him dilapidated as a person.
And what a choice for Jonathan Majors to play a decaying corpse. Like, I
Yes.
don't know how he can summon his tissue to just
he committed
fly away like that.
just as
I
much-
found that offensive.
To all corpses.
Do you know that there's as many living humans on Earth right now as there are corpses that are buried in some state of decay on Earth that have ever lived in human existence?
Is that true?
Yeah, we crossed that threshold sometime in the 80s.
Wow!
She pulls out the tempad to summon Ms. Minutes, who leaves us with some haunting last lines. I know a really big secret about you, but it's gonna make you really angry. Oh, thank you! Ah, stop it!
Magnificent!
Okay, so we gotta ask, wait a damn minute, what is this secret about Ravona? I got it! You guys
Go ahead,
sitting down?
you've been teasing your
You think
theory.
you know?
We're dying to
Alright,
know.
what's the secret?
Ravona is a variant of
Ah!
He Who Remains. But just like sacred timelines, you need a sacred He Who Remains. And so he keeps wiping her brain. But that's why this partnership and why it's her that can be with him is this thing. And why Ms. Minutes is jealous because she just can't compete with the female version.
She doesn't have a body.
She doesn't have a body, she's
Can't
AI.
get those gears wound, you know what I'm saying?
But I think Ms. Minutes is charged with knowing everything and never being reset with her programming so that she can keep tabs on She Who Remains.
Oh,
She
she
Who
who remains.
And I think that that's why she's been in the head of things. That's why she's been in the loop. That's why she's been working with Ms.
Okay.
Minutes. And I think that that's why Ms. Minutes is finally trying to say, all right, I'll let you in.
See, I'm with you on
I love it.
everybody at the TVA is constantly having their mind wiped. I think that has been I've said that from the first episode. I think that there is just, that is how you get all the facades put up, right? That's how you end up with animatronics, like being the sacred timekeepers or whatever it is. People are just constantly getting reset. I think why she's really angry is she has actually, for the last 45 years, won the Super Bowl pool, the squares, and Kang keeps resetting her memory so that she can't collect the money, and then sending out an email being like, congratulations to our winner, and it's always Kang spelled a little bit differently. It's like our winner, C-H-A-I-N-G, Kang.
That's why there's QENG.
Yeah,
That's just one of his
exactly.
other winning
It's just
names.
Kang winning Super Bowl pools over and over again as a different person. Even Casey is a Kang.
Oh.
Well, also with my theory, the show is called Loki, and the big season 1 reveal was Sylvie being the female variant of Loki.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I do think that season 2 is going to see the shadow of that. You know, like
I like that.
You've got Loki, Sylvie teaming up.
Ooh, I like that
And
a
then
lot.
you've got Ravona, but this whole thing about partnerships is really interesting because as soon as Ravona said let's do this partnership, thunk, she got yeeted quite literally.
She did. They yeeted her onto a boat, and then her petulantly putting the oars in and then angrily rowing was some great pissed off acting by that Gugu Mbatha-Raw. Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, you know, this is, I recommend viewers watch on the main Rockstars channel this kind of multiverse war, Renslayer, because he says, thank you for joining my team, you know, and I think you're right, Maude. I think there's a lot this is something that, like, I think a theory that a lot of people are starting to sign on to, that there's a parallelism between He Who Remains and Renslayer, and the reason he activated perhaps Loki and Sylvie is to see, like, well, can it work with other couples? Like, why can't I trust my partner? And then when he sees Loki and the season 1 finale say, I just want you to be okay, he's like, I can't do that. Like, why can't I trust my variant to, like, partner with me? Because she tamed Goliath. I think it was Renslayer who tamed Goliath. And together they needed to tame Goliath, because Loki and Sylvie needed to hold hands to tame Goliath.
Yes.
And then so that's how, by joining his team, she held his hand. She should have been his partner. He should have rewarded her for that. And instead, due to his own insecurity or his own ego, he couldn't let her run the TVA with him.
Lamentus, end of Lamentus. What was a cataclysmic event that spurned that new timeline? What was it? Loki and Sylvie having feelings, nearly having a smooch.
Yes.
So this variant of each other connecting in that particular way caused that event, that nexus. So what is that? What He Who Remains is not trying to have happen?
Or maybe he can't. Like, he's just incapable of making that connection. Like, wasn't it interesting in episode 2 how Sylvie was like, don't overthink it right before she holds hands with Loki? I think the thing is that Kang, Nathaniel Richards, Victor Timely cannot help but overthink everything.
Right.
That is their power,
Right.
is gaming through every possible butterfly effect permutation of the way he's
And
supposed
that's
to
why
work.
he's got neuroses.
He overthinks everything, and then he can't just like let go and connect with someone.
Right.
So I think you're right, Maude. I think that is exactly where things are headed. And I guess the question is like Ms. Minutes. Like I think I might be reaching by saying Ms. Minutes is just like part of Renslayer's memory extracted from her. But I don't know if Ms. Minutes would know that. I don't think that's what she's about to reveal to her. But I think part of what she's going to reveal to her is like, you have this connection with Eliath that and what is Eliath? Eliath is formed by all the tears in the fabric of reality. I think Eliath is
Guard dog, wasn't it?
he's kind of a guard dog. That's the way he's used, but like he's made up of like basically incursion juice, right? It's like when you have to pour the fog juice in that fog machine that you get at Spencer's Gifts, and it's that purple little thing. That's Eliath in a bottle, and then you pour him in the fog machine, and then no one comes to your Halloween party because
I've
you're
been
not
on an
friends with
incursion juice cleanse for the last year.
How's that going for you?
It's a lot of smoke coming out of my ass.
I think is it possible that like Renslayer was even the queen before he remained? Did he dethrone her, or did he just deny her the throne?
I think she
him?
was so capable, and perhaps she was the better person for the job, because you know the dichotomy between the two. You've got someone who's very neurotic. You've got someone who's like all over the place, and she from day one has been very centered. She gets the job done. You know, she's the opposite. So I wonder if this just becomes a thing of like working together and not having that lack of trust. And he's King the Conqueror. Like he wants to be on the throne. And I think that that's what's hurting him. He keeps wiping her mind because she keeps becoming more capable or wants to form a unionship. And he's just like, no, it's me or nothing. And I think that Ms. Minutes' unwavering
What a tragedy, though. Like, if it's just like every time you figure out an effective like strategy, someone just goes, boop,
Nope,
boop, boop, boop.
that's it. Yeah, and I actually think this is going to
Just
be
so
quite
violent.
devastating the more we reveal about Ravona. Yeah. Oh.
That's fascinating. Well, let us know in the comments below what you think the history between He Remains, Ravona Renslayer, and Ms. Minutes are. Before we get to talking about some other questions we had this episode, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, One Shot Energy. So, One Shot are these like energy chews. They have like focus chews, they have energy chews. These are great. And they actually made like a new Rockstar specific one where it's a Blue Dungeon Raspberry.
You have to explain it to me, but I understand it now. It sounds so less
menacing.
Yeah.
We called it the Blue Dungeon because when we were like working from home for a few years, I just kind of set up a room in my house with a blue wall, and I felt so cut off from everyone else. So I just called it the Blue Dungeon.
That's right.
There were times where like I was in the Blue Dungeon, and then every other like I felt just so lonely, and I think that's why I called it the Blue Dungeon. Is like I was just like by myself working. Hey, and you know what? I talked about this as, like this was a past era. Like last week or a couple weeks ago, I was like here in the new Rockstars office at 5:30 a.m. by myself.
Oh, God.
And it was exciting, but also scary. You start hearing sounds.
Yes,
and
there
I was
are ghosts.
I'm back in the dungeon. All right, let's give these a taste.
All right, we got the Blue
This
Dungeon.
is Blue Dungeon Raspberry.
Transport me.
Oh, you guys are a lot faster than me.
That raspberry hit different.
Begin your transformation with a one-shot energy today by going to oneshotenergy.com/newrockstars for 10% off your order. I am energized for the rest of this video. I don't know about you guys.
I would be ready to start with that.
I don't know what you just said.
I can see through time. Time is power.
All right, we're getting back to talking about what happened this episode. Let's talk about the connection between He Who Remains, the Kang variant, and Victor Timely, the Kang variant. And just a reminder, this Victor Timely has grown up on what this episode's lower third titles have called a branched timeline. So it is not the sacred timeline history that we have known. It is a branch history that was caused by Sylvie killing He Who Remains in the Loki Season 1 finale. Branches are forming, and one of those branches is this young man living in 1868, Southside Chicago, who's given a sports almanac book and put on a new life path. But my question is it just coincidence that that young man grows up to look exactly like Jonathan Majors, or is this just like a TV show convention where it's just every Kang variant to us, the viewer, just kind of looks like Jonathan Majors.
That's exactly, I think, what's going to happen, the latter. You look like you had something to say, but I have been energized, so...
Go!
Well, a great example is, when they went to the end of time, there were all those different Loki variants. So we're going to see all the Kang variants now, right? And they can be vastly different. Those Lokis, only the president kind of looked like Tom Hiddleston.
Right.
But the red one was a crocodile, So I'm wondering just how far we're going to get. But I think because this is the first variant, it needs to look like Kang. I don't think that this is his father or something that's branching out that much. I think we're using the blueprint, the template of season 1 in this regard. So their relationship is that they are the same person, but I think you're going to have different extremes of his personality.
Yep. I agree. That's
Okay.
actually my companion point to that is I believe that He Who Remains had multiple contingency plans in the event of his death. And I believe that based on the information that he gave both Sylvie and Loki, he felt confident this was the best contingency plan to put into action, which is to put a more benevolent Kang variant in control of recreating the TVA. So Victor Timely in the Rolodex of Kangs, in the Council of Kangs, is one of the more kinder Kangs. Now, he warned against these monstrous Kangs that are out there that seek only to conquer and dominate. This one seems to want to create and invent and make better and improve upon life. So...
Well, he's still ripping people off.
He is
He's a con man.
Yeah.
That's a good point. He's not necessarily a Boy Scout.
But he seems as though he's kind of a little bit of a Robin Hood. Not rob from the rich to give to the poor, but like his means for... He rips people off to make more inventions. He's not ripping people off to like live in a palatial, like, when we see...
But his intentions aren't wonderful.
He wants to power the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just ambitious.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has even a game plan or like a worldview.
Yeah.
I think he's just trying to bring to life these sketchings that are in this book.
Yes, to me, because why would you invent a pruning stick if you are Victor Timely? What about an object that can destroy or send things to a void would be something that you, as a person whose like ambition is to create power through time, what how does that help? That's a weapon of violence, right?
I agree, and I think that's exactly it. He's not doing these designs or making these inventions to help other people. There isn't this sort of altruistic viewpoint that he's got. I think he's seen what's in the book, and that's the goal.
Right.
And he's been conditioned growing up reading this
Right.
that anything beyond measure, it all comes back to the designs in the book.
Yeah, I
So
think
we have
he's
to do what it takes to make that happen.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's his obsession. He's a technologist. He's kind of a Da Vincian, a Jules Vernean mindset, and it's just so funny that he hates Edison. But he's right. Edison was kind of a scumbag, right? Like the wars he got into with Marconi, Edison would send out thugs to other inventors to like break up their workshops.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna have some like New Jersey. Where was his workshop?
If it was in New Jersey, then it doesn't count as a workshop. It's simply known as a garbage heap.
But he was just, I don't know. He was a very like
What a dick.
aggressive guy. So I
Yeah.
think that's what Jonathan Majors, or that's what Victor Timely is kind of hinting at, is I think he just wants to invent his stuff and get out in the world and then figure out what his destiny is. I think right now, yes, you're right. He is a con man. He is a trickster. But overall, he's still pretty innocent.
That's what yes.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Tommy. That innocence is what was part of this contingency for He Who Remains, like will and testament.
Yeah.
I think Victor Timely comes from 1860s Chicago, but I think He Who Remains still came from the 31st century. I think he still started as Nathaniel Richards, but that was the story for all the Kangs. And he saw that led to them warring with each other, becoming a bunch of Edisons, right?
Right.
And they dogpiled, they killed each other in multiversal wars. It had to be settled with Goliath. So his thinking is, what if I could find another version of me in a completely different era of history, and maybe just remove him from that like 31st century knowledge and just make him a nice, pure 19th century sweetheart.
So he also is not burning it to the ground to build again. He's just fixing what's broken.
Yeah, or he's trying to like purify it in a way. Like, what if we had someone who, before capitalism took over America, right? I mean, you could say America's capitalist roots were already there in the early 19th century, but it was the Industrial Revolution was still kind of in a state of transformation, and I think like this would have been a perfect time to inspire like an alternate Edison, an alternate Tesla, and I think there is something to be said. Like, he didn't want to use coal and fossil fuels. Isn't it interesting that in season 1 of Loki, they talked about these apocalyptic events on Earth that many of them were contributed to by climate change.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The Haven Hills, Alabama, being wiped out by a Category 8 hurricane. Maybe that's what He Who Remains is trying to do. Like, what if we could get America on a different course that wasn't so reliant on fossil fuels, instead just relying on a temporal energy source?
Ah, I like that. I think that's a good theory too.
I think just we're going to see how like climate wars drive us all a little crazy over the next 60 years and might lead to 31st century scientists doing some really horrible things to each other.
Yeah.
The Kang effect.
I hope so.
Hey, we have that to look forward to, everybody.
So we got that going for us, which is nice.
We should discuss the TVA Guidebook.
Yes.
Yeah? Is this circular loop of knowledge an Ouroboros, if you will?
I love that. I mean, I think absolutely it is a kind of a sports almanac thing. Like they're pulling from Back to the Future. This idea of like putting all the knowledge of the future in a book and making the book the MacGuffin. I think it was a really smart choice by Zemeckis in the Back to the Future trilogy. And I think now you can even say sports almanac and sci-fi nerds know exactly what we're talking about. I think that's the analog point here. But the idea that like, you're right, Ouroboros wrote it, and then now it's like this Bible being given to He Remains. It's like a chicken and the egg thing.
It's given to everyone, and almost everyone across the TVA patently rejects it, right? Like that's kind of the whole joke of the first
Casey
episode.
loves it.
Casey, but
Casey lives in
Casey,
Wi-Fi.
as I call him, because I believe Casey is a variant.
You think so?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I like that.
I think that like.
I don't think Casey's mean enough.
Well,
I don't
you know
think
what?
Casey
As we
wants
know
to-
from He Who Remains, there's a broad spectrum of Kangs.
But can Casey and Ravona coexist as variants under the same umbrella? I guess if they keep wiping
Time
each
works
other's
differently in the TV.
Oh, you're saying Casey's a variant of
Kang.
Oh, I thought you were saying just a variant of some like
Well, they
variant
were-
of Casey Kasem or something.
He's a variant of Casey Jones. The
Oh,
ghost,
yes!
not the Ninja Turtle. The ghost.
That's what I
railway
thought it
conductor.
was. Give me Casey Jones, hockey stick.
Yeah, he's a variant of that Casey Jones too. He's a variant of all Caseys. Casey Kasem, as you said.
Oh, Casey from Scream?
Casey Affleck.
That's why they said I'm gonna gut you like a fish, Casey, because it's a
I've never
reference
heard
to
of a fish.
Drew Barrymore.
Yes.
That'll do it for us today here on Inside Marvel in the Breakroom. Reminder to subscribe to all 3 channels of the new Rockstars Network. Comment down below with your takes from this episode. We have a lot of hot takes coming out of this one. We're really excited to see episode 4. You can follow Maude at Maude Garrett. You can follow Tommy at Tommy Bechtold. You can follow me at E Voss. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.